Blacklist Podcast, brought to you by our title sponsor, Sodium Fishing Gear. All right, Captain C.A. Richardson here with the Blacklist Flats Class Podcast, and my special guest today is number 71, Mr. Old Florida, Gray Drummond.
Thank you for having me, C.A.
I'm looking forward to it. You know, the premise of the whole Blacklist Podcast is to do the whole Raymond Remington thing with you pick a victim, you pick someone out, and then you just basically interrogate them. So that's what I'm going to do with you today is interrogate you.
I'm in the crosshairs today.
You're in the crosshairs.
and I stay in the crosshairs, so I'm used to that.
and typically, you've got animals in the crosshairs most of the time.
A lot of the time, yeah.
A lot of the time. So, you know, being Mr. Old Florida, one of the poignant things that you said to me when you and I did the show last year, and by the way, that is one of the most watched or viewed episodes of Flats Class of all time.
No kidding.
It really is. And it's not that you and I did anything outside the norm of what we would normally do.
Well, usually two good-looking guys as good as we are don't get together in one show, and so I expect nothing less. So.
But I think the setting, the venue, is what set it apart.
Yeah.
So going back to that poignant expression that you kind of, you know, put a mark on me with was the fact that people come to Florida, they move here, they come here, they visit here, they vacation here from all over, not only the country, but even other places on the planet. And the one thing that they associate with Florida is Disneyland, Disney World,
Daytona,
Busch Gardens,
yeah.
Daytona,
Miami,
South Beach, the Florida Keys.
Yeah.
And so much of that has been commercialized, industrialized, and it's just big city sprawl and crowds. And you show them a part of Florida that's what Florida was meant to be.
It is, and I don't think we should take anything away from the other. You know, the Miami and the Daytonas. You know, I think that's part of what makes Florida so unique. We have such a different variety, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's already there.
That's
so
right. That's for sure. It's not going. It's definitely not going away.
But it also is a good lesson for us to, I think, take from that, and that is, see the advantages of conservation. And so it doesn't turn into the Miamis or the Disney Worlds.
I mean, that ride from Fowler's Bluff, you're on the Water River Lodge.
The Swanee River, yeah.
Down the Swanee River, out one of the passes, and to the fishing, you know, the more saltwater traditional fishing grounds.
I think we took the East Pass out.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's like stepping back in time. The number of eagles that you see and otters along the bank and fish striking, and you just realize all the possibilities, and you also understand the fact that there's not that many people that are really using that part of the resource. For me, it's refreshing, and it's one of the biggest reasons I moved up here. But I love it, and I think I was a little bit more tickled because I didn't realize the number of sturgeon that are on that river. And seeing the signs, I was like, well, that must be legal ease. For those of you that have never been up to the Swanee River, there's these big placard boards that say danger leaping sturgeon and could cause death or and it just seems like such an outrageous claim. Like there's no possible way. But running down that river that morning, we saw 2 or 3 leave the water, and I was rolling along in the Marquesa at like 40 miles an hour. And once you see the first one come out of the water and breach, and it looked like a small whale, you're like, okay, let's run this thing back a few notches. Yeah. So pretty cool.
It is.
Pretty cool.
I think it's unique.
And you're a multi-generational personality in that part of the world. I mean, that's home to you.
It is. It's home to us. My family came down from South Carolina in the early 1800s, and for whatever reason, we keep coming back. We don't leave. If we do leave, we come right back. So there must be something in the water, I tell people. But it is. You touched on something a minute ago talking about Florida and the identity of Florida and what people kind of identify Florida with, and that being the Miamis, et cetera. But, what a lot of people don't realize now more than ever, I mean, there's 7,000 to 10,000 people a week moving to Florida. That's incredible. Get your mind around that. So for a long time, I remember our kind of thought was let's not tell anybody about our neck of the woods. Let's just keep it to ourselves. But then as you kind of get older and a little wiser, and you see, people are coming, whether you like it or not. So we kind of take a different approach. Let's embrace it. And let's embrace the growth, and let's show people what we have here. And hopefully by showing them, it makes it tangible, and they actually can see it, put their hands on it, and realize, wow,
we got to protect it.
We got to protect this for the future.
And you have a guide in your clutches or in your fold, Captain Chris Whitman, who has been a guest on our podcast before, and I think there's no one that pretty much identifies with that more than him. He understands what happened to Southwest Florida, and he has kind of made it clear that he's a vanguard of water quality. And with guys like him as influences and guys like yourself that understand, if we can make people that don't have the same point of perspective that you and I have here, because we've been here our whole lives.
Right.
So we've seen the change, and it kind of, it makes you feel like, wow,
it does.
This is bad. And you talk to people like Flip Pallett, and for Flip, his point of perspective is even further down the timeline than yours and mine, and it just it makes the Indian cry, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But you still have to understand that the people that have just been here for 4 or 5 years, you've got to make them think the way you and I think. And if you can do that, then you can protect some of these areas like the Nature Coast and the Big Bend and the Forgotten Coast, because that really is the last frontier.
It is. Conservation starts with education.
That's right. It truly does. Which brings me to the business that everyone that listens to this podcast really knows you for, and that's the Florida Outdoor Experience, the FOE. They see that logo that's got the hoofs and the horns and the fish. And a lot of them, those that are really indoctrinated to our area, they know what it is. But others are like, well, what is that? Is it Fraternal Order of what? That's what I got the first time I showed someone the decal. It was sitting on one of my coolers. They're like, so what, Fraternal Order Eagles? Or I go, no.
Secret society.
It's not like the Masons or anything like that. It's not a secret society, but in a way, it is a cool club to be a part of.
It is, and I talk about this all the time. One of the neat factors about this that I did not anticipate when I started Florida Outdoor Experience was actually all of us becoming a family.
Yes.
And I just can't say it another way. It's just the way it is. I'm an only child, but I've got 9 brothers and sisters.
That's right.
And I mean that. And so it is so much fun to work with these group of folks and also relax and enjoy ourselves in our downtime with these group of folks, you know?
I think it brings you back to your roots, because what you don't know about Mr. Gray Drummond is his other job is he's a corporate banker. He's a banker.
I am. I'm the bad boy, huh?
The
bad guy.
You are a banker. And I think FOE and being with the guides, I think that's probably your escape as well. It's your sanity, so that you're...
it is.
One needs the other, I think.
My family's been involved with everything from cattle, banking, timber, etc. And over the years, and this is mine.
Yes.
This is something that...
This is your satellite hustle.
It is.
That has turned into a big deal.
It has snowballed into something that I would have never guessed.
That's why I asked you.
I sit back all the time and I'm like, I cannot believe all these people from all over the world,
are hearing
are
about
coming
FOE.
to hang out with us.
That's right.
And it's humbling. It's really an honor, and we don't take that for granted. I never take that for granted. And by doing this, I think it really helps to keep me from taking all of this for granted. Because I'm constantly showing people, and I'm watching their expression, because they have no idea what's going on here. They have no idea about. I'll have people from Miami come up, and it blows my mind. See, they'll look around and they're like, "Wow, all of these trees. We had no idea Florida had this."
That's right.
And one of them made a good point. It blew me away. And they said, ever since Hurricane Andrew came through, it just wiped out all of our trees. And so whatever trees we do have been planted just so manicured. And it just really hits home when you hear that. How lucky we are to have this.
We are lucky. We are very, very lucky. And I think you're one of the most graceful ambassadors of our group, because you understand all sides of the equation and what has to happen. Mm-hmm. Where many of us that are only guides, and we only see our small little world, and we don't want to share, and we don't want things to change. I think because you have your, irons in so many different little fires, you understand growth is going to happen. This is going to take place. Highways are going to bring more people here. And who knows what it looks like in 20 years.
And I used to be that way. I used to be the guy that was just, tight-lipped, didn't want to share it. But I also learned that I'm not changing it. So you might as well embrace it if you want to do something about it.
I think time does that to all of us.
Yeah.
I'm a little older than you, so I realize it even
I'm
more.
Catching you, though.
And you're trying to. And when I talk to Chico, and I talk to Stu, and I talk to Flip, and I just talk to some of the older guides that have got another 10 or 15 or 20, 25 years in the case of some of them on me, I realize, I go, okay, there are certain people that you need to kind of embrace and help along, because they're going to be the heir apparent to all of this, and you need them thinking the way you do.
Exactly.
And for that to happen, you can't shut him out. You can't just say, hey, he's young, he's reckless, he's doing this, he's doing that. I can't believe he just gave this away. I can't believe. You got to get past that, because there are two types. There are the ones that are just alphas, and then there are the ones that are a little more quiet the way they go about it, but they still end up getting in the same place. Right. And you just got to pick your poison and who your friends are. So tell me about the hunting aspect, because I want to save the fishing aspect for part two.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you got turkey, you got hogs, you got deer, you got
alligators, and we have everything. Everything Florida offers, we offer. But the Osceola turkeys are bread and butter on the hunting side.
That's getting ready to really kick off. Is it tomorrow, this weekend?
It kicks off Saturday.
Yeah,
so we have approximately 71 people coming through in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And we're ready for it. As I was telling you earlier, I always get a little anxiety this time of year, because until we get the ball rolling a couple of weeks in it and get in the groove, I don't relax.
couple of birds
down. Yeah.
And everyone's feeling good.
Yeah, we've been very successful on that side of the business, and it's been a blast.
And
I don't know another way to describe it.
Is it your favorite of all the things that you do?
Hunting-wise, in Florida, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think any of my guides would say that too. So, but then right after turkey season, we take a couple of weeks to gather up all of our stuff, and pack it for the summer, the hunting stuff, and then we roll into tarpon.
That's right. And that's what we're going to talk about in part 2 of the Flats Class Blacklist podcast, brought to you by SodiumUSA.com, our online tackle retailer that we've partnered with this year. They've been fantastic for us. So you guys grab some more popcorn, cup of coffee, wherever you're at right now, or a cold beverage, and we'll be back right after this. listening to another episode of the Blacklist Podcast. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Sodium Fishing Gear, at sodiumusa.com. All right, we're back here with Captain Gray Drummond, Mr. Old Florida. All right. Well, when we left in part one, we were just about to dive into, if you will, tarpon season, because that's the next thing that's going to happen after you come out of the turkey woods.
That's right.
So how exciting is that for you? Is that one of your
awesome.
favorite things to do?
Absolutely, because you're just transferring from one favorite thing to another in the woods, and then the other's on the water, and you're ready for that change.
Yeah. And
that's one of the cool things about offering both is they're kind of seasonal, so you never get too burned out on one.
That's right.
And I think that makes it fun, and it keeps us energized and never too complacent.
I've always I get asked all the time. I've actually been a guest on a few podcasts, and when Tom Rowland asks me, do you ever think you'll run out of things to talk about? And I looked at him like, what are you talking about, Tom? I mean, we're saltwater guys. Because, I can see it with freshwater. There's only so many ways bass fishing is interesting. But
that's the truth.
Because you talk to most bass guys, and you can ask them questions like, "Okay, man, how do you choose lure color?" And they're like, "Well, I only got two. I got green pumpkin and I got black and blue, and I don't need anything. If there's a shad, hatch, I'm throwing white or something translucent. Other than that, that's it." But I've got hundreds of species of fish to talk about, and a different way to skin the cat every time. So when you have it even better, because I don't really do any of the hunting. Now, I want to get back into that again, because I used, when I was younger, that's what we did. I would love to introduce Cam into something like that. That would give him and I something more to do other than fish together. But if I can ever pull him away from his business. But the fact that you can expand from turkey hunting and tarpon fishing, and you guys do flats fishing, and then you're hunting hogs and deer in the fall. It really is such a well-rounded thing, because when I look at my calendar, it goes from, early in the season, I'm fishing for speckled trout.
Right.
And then I go from speckled trout to transitioning into catching plenty of redfish and a lot more snook as it warms up. And then every flats guide, their blood boils when tarpon season's here, because, oh my God, I'm so tired of being on a 2-foot flat. I'm ready just to be targeting big fish every day, getting in the groove. And they love it. And tarpon season's wonderful for 10 or 12 weeks. And then it starts to wear on you.
Becomes a grind.
It becomes a grind. And then they're anxious in the fall to start working the spawning redfish groups and things like that. And then you've got the snook putting their feed bag back, getting back where they want to go in the back country. And then before you know it, it's wintertime, and you're fishing the booger woods. So that's kind of our calendar. But your calendar can be even more diverse than that. Much more diverse than that.
Yep.
Now, I want to talk about the guides that work underneath you at Florida Outdoor Experience, but I want to kind of backtrack just for a second. Your tarpon fishing is kind of more in line, for the most part, with fly fishing. It's mostly fly fishing.
It is. Yeah, we focus on that. And as you know, you're familiar with the Homassassa area.
Yes.
And that's just kind of the staple here. The fly fishing is just what we do there. And it's neat. I think that's a, kind of a cool part of Homassassa and the tradition here. And I think it's very cool and very surprising how people still respect that here.
It is. I think a lot of it
is. I'm talking to a spinning guy.
A plastic hard bait throwing son of a gun. A bass guy that got displaced into salt water. But you're right. It's always been looked upon as that. And I think what keeps a lot of folks out is we're above what I would call the white bait line.
Right.
So there's not a lot of natural baits that are really tossed at these things, unless they're like in a deeper barge canal or something like that. You'll hear guys fish them that way. A lot of this stuff has to be done on fly fishing here. Now, you can catch them on soft plastics. I promise you can catch them on soft plastic. But again, one of the big, I'm going to say, barriers to fishing this area is the fact that what you don't know can be pretty damn dangerous here, because running around here is not safe. And
it's probably one of the most dangerous, treacherous coastlines, I would say, from Anclote all the way to, gosh, probably Steenhatchee, a little north.
Dude, there's a rock. There's a rock with everyone's
name on it. You learn a new one
it
every time you go.
And it literally, I almost feel like when I take the straps off the back of my boat, I go by and I just affectionately spin my prop, thinking this could be the last day. Then I go get the other strap off, because that's the kind of place that we live in here.
Very treacherous.
Hard limestone outcroppings everywhere.
Not forgiving.
Rocks that are 3 miles offshore that are 2 feet underneath the water. I mean, it is that kind of place, and that's what keeps people from really saying, okay, well, I'll just tarpon fish there.
It's a lot cheaper just to hire a guide.
It's just a lot better and smarter to hire a guide. Now, talking about the fly fishing, without you giving away any of your patterns that are like...
I'm scared to say anything anymore.
I'm
going to upset somebody.
Okay, I will say this. When we used to throw toads and things, toad flies and things to these fish 15 years ago, it just seemed like all the patterns were big patterns. They were big, dark patterns. And as time has gone on, I have watched my friends like Captain Greg Peterson, Captain Brian Chamberlain, Captain Nick Angelo. These guys have shrunk their flies down, and now they'll run by my boat sometimes. They're like, because I do have the occasional fly guy on my boat, and they're like, if they're not biting, throw this. And they'll throw a handful of their goodies to me, and they'll throw them in the bottom of my boat when they come by. And they look like redfish flies. They're that small now. They're that small. And is that what's taken place even here?
It seems to be.
Where you've had to downsize, really. Wow. That's crazy.
They're finicky. It's interesting because it depends on where you are in Florida. It's almost a different fish, even though it's the same one. You're going to fish them differently. They're going to react differently. They're just they come to Homassassa and they act like
20 years of tarpon fishing for me between Tampa Bay and Boca Grande. I can tell you this. I can remember how many fish we used to jump a day and how many it was going. It was kind of going down.
Now, you spend most of your time around St. Pete.
Mostly.
Correct.
Mostly. And especially in the last 10 years.
Right.
But that fishery along there, I have gotten in the last few years to where I can't wait to have the wind blow out of the west at 12 to 15. I want it to be rough, where it'll keep everyone away.
Get everyone off the water,
And I'll just take a beating. I just know that we're going to be wet that day.
Yeah.
And I love the afternoon sea breeze. I'd rather fish it's almost like I should just come out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon before the thunderstorms and everything like that, do a little bit of fishing on the high sun, wait for the tide to turn. And when it starts easing out, just stay out there till dark, till 8 or 9 o'clock, and just start my day at 1 and end at 9 and be done with it. Because what I was doing is I was starting my mornings at 5:36 and I was still coming back at 8 o'clock at night. And that was to get 3 or 4 bites a day. And man, that's tough. And when you start really looking at it, putting a pencil to the paper, when you're getting the bites, on what tide, on what salooner, and I'm starting to look at them like, well, Jesus, most of the bites are
seeing a pattern, aren't
you? Most of the bites are happening in damn near the dark, the end of the day. So I'm looking forward to spending my first full time. I've only played up here every once in a while during tarpon season. I've never really.
So this will be your first year.
This will be the first time
all year, all season.
As an old guy, that I'm going to be up here the whole time.
Well, you got to be excited about that.
I am.
Something new.
It's new.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you, guys like yourself that have helped me out learning the stuff just around Cedar and going up to Swanee where you are. You've been a great outlet for me to learn, and then spending time with Captain Jeremiah Carlucci here. I've learned a lot. I've learned things outside of fishing with him. Yeah. I've got a whole new vocabulary because of Jeremiah. Guys like Brandon Branch, who is young, but he is such a intuitive angler. He's going to be one of the greats in this area. Guys like Dan Clymer. I mean, there's too many to really mention.
There are.
There are.
Mean, good grief. My guides. I mean, some of those. I tell you, they're second to none.
And that's where I want to go. You know, I've met some of your guys like Lacey and Parker and Witt.
Parker O'Bannon, Chris Whitman, Lacey Kelly, Ryan Nitz. One of the, arguably, I think one of the best tarpon guides out of Homassassa right now, up and coming, is Brian Sawyer.
Brian Sawyer, yeah. Yep. I see him out here quite a bit in just running his boat around.
And then you have like Nate Weber. He's really upped his game. He's coming along well. And
some of the and some
Bachman.
Some of your guys I have long relationships like Witt. And I've known Lacey for a long time. I just don't know her on a personal level.
Right.
I mean, because she came from the Fort Myers region.
She did.
And Boca Grande. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So. And Parker, I mean,
and she has one of the most beautiful casts you've ever seen.
Really?
Oh, it's just
And Parker has a definite outdoor DNA with
Parker's
with
26, 27, going on 65.
He is
an old soul.
He is. He is a very calm down individual.
Laid back, but it's neat because so many of these guides I've watched grow over the last 7-8 years. To take Parker, for instance, he obviously comes from a guiding background with his father, but when he started with me, he was fresh out of University of Florida, just taking a job as some type of salesman or whatnot. Tried that for a little bit, realized he didn't want to do that, came on board with us, and from there, now he's grown to where now he's guiding all over. Out west, Louisiana, here. And he's not only doing it, but he's successful.
That's the secret to having a regular clientele that will follow you.
It is.
That way you don't turn into, and no disrespect to any guides that are doing that, you don't turn into the hotel guide.
Right.
But
it's neat to see these guys grow and how they've
done it.
And they're doing it the right way.
Yeah, get the right clientele fishing. Yeah. And when you get those multi-trips out of clients throughout the year, different parts of the season, you're making them better, and you're seeing them get better. And then the synergy between, there's no feeling out process.
No, it's a team sport. You know their moves, they know your moves. The more you can fish or hunt the same person, you just kind of get that flow and that vibe. It's just like any team.
Yeah, it just makes it easy.
The more practice you get, the better you're going to get.
And I can tell you, as an old guide like myself now, it's harder for me to want to fish with new people like it is people that I've been fishing for a long time, because
that's understandable.
You've had so many experiences and so much history with them, and you know what their skill level is, and you know exactly how you're going to do this, and there is no guesswork in it at all. And as an older guide, I do appreciate that more and more.
Sure, I think that's across the board.
Let's talk about a company that you and I have a common bond with, and that's Hell's Bay Boat Works.
Oh yeah,
man. I mean,
great company, great folks. Chris has done a wonderful job with that. Cutting edge boats. We run a professional, and
you guys have a Marquesa.
I'm trying to
get another. You're trying to get an Eldora.
An Eldora off you, but so far you're not budging with it. But I'm going to keep poking.
That's only because there's a shortage of Yamaha motors out there now. The 25 might be a little bit more accessible, so maybe I should put an order in for now. That way I know I can release that other one to you. And that one has some aqua traction on it, which
I saw that.
That makes a big difference in how that boat sounds and performs. To me, it shouldn't be an option. It should be a standard thing.
Necessity, yeah. And it's comfortable.
It's comfortable. Yeah. It's super, super comfortable. And that's a rock steady little boat, bare bones boat that allows you to float in 3.5, 4 inches of water, run across 8 inches of water. Yeah. If it's soft mud, you can run even shallower than that. And and to me, I've grown up in little small boats, so to me, it's not too tender. It's not tippy or anything like that. To me, it's perfect.
Very stable, dry.
Considering I had Jeremiah pulling me around on that so far, and he's considering one. Jeremiah, Brian Chamberlain, he's like, wow, you could pull this boat all day long, and you don't even feel like you pulled anybody into the wind. It doesn't matter. Cody Pierce out of Southwest Florida, he's right down there. I fish with him and Matt Lachey in Pine Island Sound. He works out of the Tarpon Lodge, and Cody, boy, that is a strong kid. We did a show down there with him, and it was blowing 30 miles an hour. I'm not BSing you. 30 miles an hour. We named the episode "Fishing Impossible," and if I wouldn't have drove so far down there, any veteran guide would have said, no, we can't do the show. But he's 30 and determined and strong as an ox. And I was like, Cody, if you'll pole in this, I promise I'll punch holes in that wind with a plug rod until you and I can get enough fish to make an episode. He goes, let's go. That's what we did, and we did it. We absolutely did it. Limited us a little bit, but we were able to pull it off. But yeah, you do have a great group of guides, and you have a great reputation. You really do. And
Thank you.
You've been great for Flats Class. I can remember when I asked you, I was like, well, we'd like to have a bigger role with Florida Outdoor Experience.